What if everything you believe about emotions is a weakness, not a strength, not something to be proud of, a weakness? Let that sink in, because right now, without even realizing it, your emotions are being used against you. And if you don't understand this now, you will keep losing in ways you can't explain. Think about it. How many times have you stayed quiet when you should have spoken? How many times have you forgiven someone who didn't deserve it? How many times have you hesitated and watched someone else take what could have been yours? That wasn't bad luck. That was emotion. And by the end of this video, you're going to see exactly how people have been controlling you without you noticing. You were taught to be kind, to be empathetic, to be emotional. But nobody told you the truth. The more you feel, the less control you have. And the less control you have, the easier you are to dominate. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. While everyone else was preaching morality, he was studying power, and he reached a conclusion most people are too uncomfortable to accept. If you want control, you must detach from emotion, not suppress it, not manage it, detach from it completely. And what happens when you actually do this is far more dangerous than you think. Emotion is a leash. You think your emotions are natural. They're not. They were programmed into you from childhood. Be nice, don't hurt others, think about how they feel. It sounds harmless, but it creates something dangerous, a predictable mind. And predictable minds are the easiest to control. Let me show you how. If someone knows you hate conflict, they will pressure you. If someone knows you fear losing people, they will manipulate your loyalty. If someone knows you feel guilty easily, they will control your decisions. Every emotional trigger you have is a button someone else can press. And the worst part? Most of the time, you don't even realize it's happening. You think you're being a good person, but in reality, you're being managed, quietly, strategically, and effectively. Because emotional people are easy to predict. They react instead of calculate. They feel instead of think. And reaction is where control is lost. Be honest, when was the last time your emotions made you do something you regret? Exactly. That wasn't weakness. That was lack of control. And in a world where everyone is competing for power, lack of control makes you vulnerable. The truth Machiavelli understood. Machiavelli didn't care about your feelings. He cared about outcomes, power, results. And he saw something most people ignore. People don't respect emotion. They exploit it. Read that again in your mind. They don't respect it. They use it. You can love someone deeply, and they will still betray you. You can trust someone completely, and they will still take advantage of you because your emotions don't control them. Their perception of power does. And perception is not built on how you feel. It's built on how you act. And if your actions are emotional, they are inconsistent, unstable, easy to manipulate. That's why he warned. A man who tries to be good in a world full of people who aren't will be destroyed. Not because he's weak, but because he's predictable. Detachment creates clarity. Now here's where everything changes. The moment you stop reacting emotionally, you start seeing clearly. It's almost uncomfortable at first, because you realize how much you are missing. You notice fake kindness, hidden intentions, subtle disrespect. Things that used to go over your head become obvious. Why? Because emotion clouds judgment. Detachment sharpens it. And once you reach this level of clarity, there's something else that happens that most people aren't ready for. You stop needing people. Not emotionally, not mentally. And that's when your power begins. Because the less you need, the harder you are to control. Think about it. What can someone use against a person who doesn't react, who doesn't chase, who doesn't get triggered? Nothing. And that's what makes them dangerous. But this is only the beginning. Because seeing clearly is one thing. Controlling everything is another. The power of being unreadable. Let me ask you something. Right now, can people read you? Can they tell when you're annoyed, when you're insecure, when you're trying too hard? If the answer is yes, you're exposed. And exposed people are controlled people. Because the moment someone understands your emotional patterns, they know exactly how to handle you. They know when to push, when to pull, when to pressure, when to disappear. You become predictable, and predictability is weakness. But the moment you feel nothing, everything changes. Your face doesn't react, your tone doesn't reveal, your energy stays neutral, no signals, no emotional leaks, and suddenly people can't figure you out. And that uncertainty, it makes them uncomfortable. Because human beings rely on emotional feedback. They want to know where they stand. They want reassurance. They want reactions. But you give them nothing. And when people get nothing, they start creating stories in their own mind. He's different. He's hard to read. I don't know how to approach him. Good. That confusion is your advantage. Because when people can't read you, they can't control you. Why fear outlasts love. You've been trained your entire life to seek one thing: approval, to be liked, to be accepted, to be loved. But here's the uncomfortable truth: love is unstable. Think about it. How many times has someone cared about you and then disappeared? Exactly. Love depends on emotion. And emotion changes, it fades, it shifts, it disappears under pressure. But fear is different. Fear is consistent. Fear doesn't ask how it feels today. Fear asks, what happens if I cross this person? That question alone creates control. Now understand this clearly. This is not about becoming cruel. This is about becoming someone people don't take lightly. There's a difference. Ask yourself honestly, do people respect you or just feel comfortable around you? Because comfort does not equal respect. And respect without consequence is weak. The mask principle. Now we enter the most dangerous part of this transformation, because most people misunderstand this completely. They think, okay, I'll just act cold. That's a mistake, a big one. Because obvious coldness creates resistance. People notice it. They question it. They push against it. Real control is invisible. You don't show detachment, you hide it. You build a mask. And this mask is carefully designed. You appear calm, friendly, composed, sometimes even warm. You smile when necessary. You speak when needed. You engage just enough. But inside, nothing moves you. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Because people trust what they see, not what you are. They believe the surface. And while they believe, you observe, you calculate, you decide. Machiavelli understood this deeply. People judge with their eyes, not their minds. So you give them something to see. Something safe. Something familiar. While your real intentions stay hidden. And once you master this, you can influence people without them ever realizing it. Destroying guilt completely. Now we remove the final chain. Guilt. The one thing that has stopped you more than anything else. The one thing that made you hesitate, even when you knew what to do. Guilt feels like morality, but it's not. It's control. And once you see this clearly, you'll realize how much of your life was dictated by it. Every time you didn't speak up, every time you tolerated disrespect, every time you chose comfort over power, guilt was there, whispering, "What will they think? Is this right? What if I hurt someone?" And in that hesitation, you lost. Now ask yourself a better question. Who benefits from your guilt? Not you. Never you. The people around you. The ones who gain access to your time, your energy, your decisions. Because guilt makes you compliant. It makes you easier to manage. But the moment you remove guilt, you become decisive. You act faster. You think clearer. You hesitate less. And hesitation is where power dies. Understand this. This doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a controlled person. a strategic person. Because now, you don't act based on how you feel. You act based on what gives you the advantage. And once you reach this point, there's no going back to who you were before. Because now, you see it. The manipulation, the emotional traps, the invisible pressure, and more importantly, you're no longer affected by it. At this stage, you're no longer easy to read. You're no longer easy to influence. You're no longer driven by guilt. You've built the mask. You've removed emotional weakness. You've stepped into control. But there's one final layer most people never reach. The layer where you don't just protect your power, you expand it. Silently, strategically, completely. And this is where everything comes together. Silence is a weapon. Most people talk too much. They explain themselves, they defend their actions, they reveal their intentions, and every time they do, they lose power. Because the more you say, the more you expose. Your thoughts, your plans, your weaknesses, everything leaks, and once it leaks, it can be used against you. But silence? Silence hides everything. And what people can't see, they can't stop. Think about it. If no one knows your next move, how do they prepare? If no one understands your intentions, how do they resist? They can't. And that's what makes silence dangerous. Notice this in your own life. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. It's usually the quiet one, the one observing, the one listening, the one saying less than necessary. Because while everyone else is talking, they are gathering information. And information is control. Psychological warfare without action. Here's where it becomes something else entirely. You stop reacting, you stop explaining, you stop revealing, and something strange happens. People start reacting to you without you doing anything. They begin to wonder, what is he thinking? Why is he so calm? Why doesn't he react? And that uncertainty starts working for you. Because the human mind hates not knowing. It fills gaps with assumptions. And most of the time, those assumptions are worse than reality. You don't need to intimidate people. You let their own mind do it for you. That's psychological warfare. Without effort, without conflict, without noise. You create pressure just by being unreadable. And when you combine this with what you've already learned, the results become almost unfair. This is the transformation. This is what most people will never reach. Because it requires something they're not willing to do. Let go of emotion as a driver, not as a human trait, but as a decision maker. Feeling nothing doesn't mean you become empty. It means you become selective. You choose when to feel. You choose when to act. You choose when to respond. Nothing controls you anymore. And that is power. Think back to who you were before this. Reactive, emotional, predictable. That version of you was easy to control. This version is not. Because now, no one can trigger you. No one can guilt you. No one can read you. You've become something else, something rare, something dangerous. A person who feels nothing and controls everything. Now answer this honestly. Are you still reacting to the world, or are you ready to control it? Comment below. Control if you understand. And if you made it this far, you're already ahead of most people. Stay that way.